It was almost sunset when Angela Roberts drove down the quiet road toward her home. The sky was orange and the air smelled of rain. She had just finished a long day at work and looked forward to some rest. Her car, a black sedan, moved smoothly through the nearly empty street. Soft jazz music played from the radio, filling the car with calm energy. Angela was a woman who carried peace around her. She was in her mid-30s, her face calm and confident. She had a way of speaking that made people listen. But that evening, peace did not last long. From her rearview mirror, she suddenly saw flashing red and blue lights. Her heart skipped a beat. The police car behind her honked once, demanding her to pull over. At first, she thought it must be a mistake. She wasn't speeding. She hadn't broken any rule. Still, she slowed down and pulled to the side of the road. Her fingers tightened slightly on the steering wheel. Angela turned off the engine, rolled down her window, and waited. The sound of the police car door opening echoed through the quiet street. A tall white officer with sharp eyes and a stiff face walked toward her car. His name tag read Officer Turner. He walked slowly, with a sense of power in his steps. "Good evening, officer," Angela said softly, forcing a polite smile. "License and registration," he said flatly, not returning her greeting. His tone was cold, almost suspicious. Angela nodded and reached for her purse. "Of course, officer. May I ask what's wrong?" He crossed his arms. "You were driving suspiciously, swerving a little back there." Angela blinked in surprise. "Swerving? I don't think so, sir." His eyes narrowed. "You questioning me, ma'am?" She immediately shook her head. "No, sir. Just didn't realize I did." She handed him her documents. He took them, looked them over, and then peered inside the car, scanning every inch like a predator searching for prey. Angela felt the air change. Something wasn't right. She had dealt with law enforcement before, but never like this. This man's eyes didn't show concern or duty. They showed control. After a long pause, he said, "Step out of the vehicle." Angela frowned. "Is there a problem, officer?" He raised his voice a little. "I said step out." Her heartbeat quickened, but her face stayed calm. She slowly unbuckled her seatbelt and stepped out of the car. The air outside was cool. The sound of cars passing in the distance felt far away. "Stay right here," Turner said. He walked around her car, shining his flashlight inside, opening the back door without asking. Angela stood quietly, watching. He crouched down near the driver's seat, his back facing her. His hand moved quickly, too quickly. He reached under the seat, not searching, but placing something. Angela noticed the small plastic bag in his hand. She didn't react. Her face stayed unreadable. He stood up, pretending to be surprised. Well, what do we have here?" He held up the small bag filled with white powder. His voice carried a fake tone of victory. Angela's eyes followed the bag. She spoke calmly. "That's not mine." Turner smirked. "Yeah, they all say that." Angela didn't argue. She just looked at him, silent, strong, and unafraid. He called into his radio. "Dispatch, I got a suspect. Found narcotics in her vehicle." His words sounded rehearsed, like he had said them many times before. Angela stood still, her eyes focused on him. The orange glow of the sunset reflected on her face. She looked almost peaceful, but there was something powerful behind that calm. As he put the radio down, he noticed her expression. She didn't look scared. She didn't beg or shout like others might. She just looked at him, and it made him uncomfortable. "What are you looking at?" he asked sharply. Angela tilted her head slightly. "I'm just wondering if you're sure about what you're doing." He laughed once. "Oh, I'm sure. You're going down for this." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "We'll see." At that moment, a passing car slowed down. The driver looked out, holding up a phone, recording. Then another car stopped. Soon, two people stood nearby, filming the scene. Turner cursed under his breath. "Put that phone down!" He yelled at them. Angela didn't move. She just stood there, her calm presence now feeling heavier than before. The crowd watched, whispering. "She doesn't look guilty," one person said. "That cop's acting weird," another muttered. Turner ignored them and grabbed his handcuffs. "Hands behind your back." Angela obeyed silently. The cold metal clicked around her wrists. He led her to the patrol car and opened the door. As she sat down, she said softly, "You'll regret this." Turner laughed again, but there was a crack in his voice. He slammed the door and walked back to her car to search again, maybe to feel in control. Inside the patrol car, Angela stared ahead, her face calm. The lights outside flashed across her eyes, and red, blue, she whispered to herself. Just a little longer. She knew something the officer didn't. The patrol car rolled through the dark street, its siren lights flashing against the windows of sleeping houses. Inside, Angela Roberts sat quietly in the back seat, her hands still cuffed behind her. The seat was cold, and the air smelled like metal and old coffee. She could hear Officer Mike Turner talking on his radio in front. His voice was sharp and full of fake confidence. Yeah, we got her. Bag of cocaine found under the driver's seat. Looks clean. No witnesses close enough, he said proudly. Angela listened in silence. Her face stayed calm, but her mind was working fast. She had seen men like him before, officers who thought power made them untouchable. She had spent years fighting people like him from behind a desk. But tonight, fate had pulled her directly into the field. Outside, the night deepened. The streetlights passed one by one, glowing faintly through the window bars. Turner glanced at her in the mirror once, smirking. You got something to say, Miss Fancy Car? Angela met his eyes in the mirror. Not yet, she said softly. He chuckled. Oh, we'll see if you still talk like that when we book you. Cocaine possession is serious, sweetheart. Could be 10 years, maybe more. Angela said nothing. Her silence made him nervous, though he didn't want to admit it. After a few minutes, he pulled into a small empty parking lot near an old warehouse. The place looked deserted, surrounded by shadows. He parked the car and turned off the lights. Angela frowned slightly. Why are we stopping here? He turned to face her, his smile fake and cold. Just doing my job, ma'am. Need to take a few photos for the report. He opened the door and dragged her out roughly. The ground was wet and her shoes sank slightly into the mud. He led her to the front of her car, which had been towed to the same spot earlier. The night was quiet. Too quiet. Angela could hear crickets and the distant sound of a dog barking. Turner walked around the car again with his flashlight, pretending to inspect it. His voice echoed, You know it's sad. People like you think they can get away with anything, but not tonight. Angela looked at him steadily. People like me? She asked. He turned sharply. Yeah, rich, smart, acting like the law doesn't apply. She tilted her head. You don't know who I am. I don't care who you are, he snapped. You're just another name on my report. Angela stayed silent, but her eyes studied him. The twitch in his jaw, the sweat on his forehead. He was trying to sound in control, but his energy told another story. He was nervous. He bent down again near the driver's seat, pretending to find more evidence. His flashlight moved back and forth, but this time a faint red light blinked from under the dashboard. A hidden camera. Angela noticed it, but said nothing. Turner didn't see it. He stood up and waved the bag again. See this? Pure cocaine. That's what happens when you mess around in my town. Angela spoke quietly, her voice calm but firm. You should be very sure before you write that in your report. He frowned. And why's that? Because, she said slowly, once it's written, it can't be undone. And when the truth comes out, it destroys everything. Not just your badge. For a moment, Turner froze. Her tone wasn't scared. It was controlled, commanding. He tried to shake it off and laughed nervously. Lady, you really think you can scare me? You're done. I'll make sure of it. He grabbed her arm to push her toward the car again, but before he could, headlights appeared from the distance. Another patrol car approaching. He cursed under his breath. Damn it. Angela watched as a younger officer stepped out, Officer Ramirez. He looked confused. Turner, what's going on? Dispatch said you already booked the suspect. Turner smiled too quickly. Yeah, just finishing up here. Found a big stash. Gonna take her in now. Ramirez frowned. Here? Why not at the station? Turner's eyes narrowed. You questioning me, rookie? Ramirez hesitated. His gut told him something was off. He looked at Angela, her posture straight, her expression calm but tired. She didn't look like a criminal. Angela spoke softly. Officer Ramirez, could I please have some water? Her voice broke the tension. Ramirez nodded slowly. Yeah, sure. He reached into his car for a bottle. As he handed it to her, Angela's eyes met his. Something in her calm stare told him she wasn't lying. Turner quickly interrupted. We're done here. Get back to your car. Ramirez didn't move. Mind if I check the evidence bag? Turner's voice turned cold. Chain of custody, rookie. You know the rules. Now go. Angela watched him closely. Turner's mask was slipping. His hands trembled slightly as he put the bag away. The night felt heavier now, like the air itself knew something wrong was happening. Turner finally pulled Angela back to the patrol car. "You'll remember my name when this is over," he hissed. She looked at him one last time before getting inside. "I already do," she said quietly. As the car pulled away, the hidden camera's red light blinked again. Still recording. Angela closed her eyes and whispered, "Patience," because she knew. Every move he made was being captured, and when the time came, justice would speak louder than fear. The night had turned cold and quiet when Officer Mike Turner drove Angela back toward the station. The car's red and blue lights reflected across the wet road like ghostly colors moving in the dark. Inside the patrol car, Angela Roberts sat still, her hands cuffed behind her. She looked out the window calmly, her face half lit by the flashing lights. Turner kept glancing at her through the rearview mirror. Something about her silence made him uneasy. Most people begged, cried, or yelled by now, but not her. She just sat there, quiet, her eyes unreadable. He finally spoke. "You think staying quiet will help you? You'll be in a cell before sunrise." Angela didn't respond. She watched the city lights ahead, growing brighter as they neared the station. Turner drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. He needed this arrest to look perfect. He had already decided the story. A routine stop, drugs found, suspect nervous. Clean and simple, but inside a small voice kept whispering, "What if she's not who you think she is?" He ignored it. When they arrived, 2 other officers waited outside. Sergeant Mills and Officer Ramirez, the young cop from earlier. Ramirez looked uncertain. He had been thinking about the strange scene back at the warehouse. Something didn't sit right with him. Turner opened Angela's door and pulled her out roughly. "Let's go," he said. As they walked inside, Angela glanced around. She saw cameras on the ceiling, the desk sergeant typing behind a glass window and the red light blinking on the evidence counter. She memorized everything silently. Sergeant Mills frowned. "Turner, what's this about?" Turner grinned proudly. Caught her with cocaine under her seat. Routine traffic stop turned into a big catch. Mills raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that?" Turner nodded quickly. Bag was sealed. "Already logged it." Angela finally spoke, her tone calm. "You didn't log it yet." The room fell silent. Mills turned toward her. "Excuse me?" Angela met his eyes. "He said he logged it." He didn't. He stopped at an empty lot for 30 minutes. "Maybe your cameras can confirm that." Mills looked at Turner sharply. "You stopped off-site?" Turner's jaw tightened. "Procedure. Had to check the car for weapons." Angela smiled faintly. "With the lights off?" Turner's face turned red. "Quiet," he snapped. Ramirez took a small step forward. "Sir, maybe we should check the dash cam footage before booking." "Enough," Turner shouted. He grabbed Angela's arm, trying to push her toward the holding area. But Angela didn't resist. Her calmness was unnerving. She looked like someone watching a movie she had already seen before. As they reached the fingerprinting table, another officer nearby began muttering, "Isn't that the woman from the news last month? The one who helped the DEA with that drug bust?" Turner froze for a moment, then forced a laugh. "Nah, can't be. This one's just another dealer pretending to be someone important." Angela tilted her head slightly, her eyes cold. "Pretending?" She leaned closer, her voice low but sharp. "You should be very careful with that word." Turner swallowed. For a brief second, he saw something in her eyes. Authority. Real authority. It made him look away. Sergeant Mills crossed his arms. "Turner, where's the paperwork?" Turner fumbled in his pockets, pulling out the form with shaky hands. Mills took it, reading quickly. "You claim you found the drugs under the driver's seat?" "Yes, sir," Ramirez spoke quietly. "But I saw you go around the car before backup arrived." She was already out. The door was open then. Turner turned on him. "You calling me a liar?" Ramirez didn't answer, but his silence said enough. The room grew tense. Angela watched quietly as the officers argued. Her voice broke through softly, steady like a calm wind. "Officer Ramirez, you were the only one who offered me water. You saw what really happened. Don't let fear make you silent." Ramirez looked down, his hands tight at his sides. Mills sighed. "Okay, everyone calm down. We'll check the body cam footage. That will settle this." Turner's stomach dropped. His hand instinctively went to his chest, where his camera should have been blinking. But it wasn't. The red light was off, Angela noticed. You turned it off, didn't you? She asked softly. Turner's voice shook. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I do, she said quietly. Because mine was on. Everyone looked at her. Yours? Mills asked. Angela nodded slowly. The moment you stopped me, I started recording. Hidden dash camera. Real-time upload. You'll find everything there. For the first time, Turner's confidence cracked. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Mills turned to the tech officer. Check the feed now. As the tech worked, the silence in the room grew heavier. Turner stood frozen, his face pale. The faint sound of typing filled the air. Then the monitor lit up, showing a clear video. Turner slipping the bag under the seat. The whole room gasped. Ramirez stepped back. Mills clenched his jaw. Turner, what the hell is this? Turner stammered. It's not what it looks like. Angela stepped forward, her calm voice cutting through the air. It's exactly what it looks like. Her words hit like thunder. Turner's hands trembled. He looked like he might collapse right there. Mills ordered. Cuff him. As Ramirez hesitated, Angela spoke again. No need, let him sit. The weight of his own lies is heavier than any cuff. Turner slumped into a chair, his face buried in his hands. Angela turned toward the desk. Now, she said softly, I think it's time I make a phone call. She walked toward the back office, her voice low and steady. Everyone watched as she disappeared behind the door. None of them knew yet who she really was, but they were about to find out. The police station had fallen into a heavy silence. The sound of papers rustling and the hum of the computer were the only things that broke it. Officer Mike Turner sat on the metal chair, his hands shaking, sweat dripping down his forehead. His world had started falling apart. Across the room, Angela Roberts sat calmly at a small desk. Her cuffs had been removed. Her back was straight, her eyes steady, her voice quiet. She looked like she didn't belong in a police station. She looked like she owned it. Sergeant Mills stood near the monitor, watching the video again. Every second of the recording showed Turner planting the drugs, pretending to discover them and acting like a hero. The truth was now undeniable. Officer Ramirez leaned against the wall, arms crossed. He had a mix of anger and confusion on his face. He couldn't believe what he had just seen. Angela finally spoke, her tone soft but commanding. You see, she said, truth doesn't need to shout. It just waits, and when the time comes, it speaks for itself. Her words made everyone turn toward her. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't angry. She was calm, too calm. Mills cleared his throat. Ma'am, who exactly are you? Angela looked at him, her expression unreadable. Someone who believes in justice, she said simply. Mills frowned. That's not an answer. Angela leaned back slightly in her chair. You'll get your answer soon. But first I'd like to make a call. He hesitated, then nodded. Go ahead. She took the station phone and dialed a number slowly. Turner stared at her, his face pale. He couldn't look away. Who are you calling? He muttered under his breath. Angela didn't answer. She spoke into the phone quietly. This is Director Roberts. I'm at the 14th precinct. I'll need an internal affairs team and one of my field units, yes. It's urgent but under control. The room froze. Mills blinked. Director? Angela hung up the phone and looked at him. Yes, Director Angela Roberts, DEA. Turner's breathing stopped for a second. His body stiffened like stone. He whispered, no. No way. Angela turned toward him. You said I'd be in a cell before sunrise. I suppose you were half right. Someone will be, but not me. The words cut like a blade. Ramirez's mouth dropped open. You're with the DEA? Angela nodded once. I was on my way home from a meeting with the Attorney General when your officer decided to stop me. I didn't flash my badge because I wanted to see how far he would go. Mills stepped back slowly, disbelief on his face. You set this up? Angela's eyes met his. No, I simply allowed him to expose himself. Turner shook his head, voice trembling. You tricked me. You were testing me. Angela's tone was calm, almost sad. No, Officer Turner. I was driving home. You tested yourself. He tried to stand, but his knees buckled. Please, listen, I didn't mean... Angela raised a hand gently. Stop. The time for lies is over. 2 minutes later, the station doors opened. A team of agents in dark suits walked in. Serious faces, earpieces, federal badges. They moved with silent precision. The air in the room turned cold. Director Roberts, one of them said respectfully. "We came as fast as we could." "Good," Angela replied. "Place Officer Turner in custody. Secure all footage and reports from this station. I want everything reviewed for corruption." The agents moved quickly. Turner was too shocked to resist. The cuffs clicked around his wrists, the same ones he had used on her earlier. He looked down, tears forming in his eyes. "This can't be happening," he whispered. Angela stood up, her expression firm. "It's happening. Actions have consequences. You forgot that when you thought no one was watching." Mills rubbed his forehead, still trying to process everything. "Director, I swear I didn't know." Angela interrupted softly. "I know. You weren't the target. But maybe this will remind everyone here that power without honesty is a danger to everyone." Ramirez stepped forward, voice shaky. "Director Roberts, thank you for speaking up. I wanted to stop him, but I was scared." Angela gave him a small, kind look. "Fear is normal. Silence is the problem. Next time, don't be silent." He nodded slowly, his eyes full of respect. As the agents led Turner out of the station, the reporters outside started flashing cameras. Somehow the story had already leaked. Turner covered his face, his voice breaking. "Please tell them I didn't mean it." Angela didn't respond. She just watched quietly, her face calm but her eyes filled with something deep. Not anger, not pride, just disappointment. When the chaos settled, Mills approached her again. "Director, what happens now?" Angela picked up the evidence bag from the table, looked at it, and then placed it down. "Now," she said, "we fix what's broken." She turned to leave, her heels clicking softly against the floor. The sound echoed through the hall like a slow heartbeat. Every officer in the room watched her go, silent, humbled, and stunned. Outside, the early morning light began to rise, painting the sky pale blue. Angela stepped out, breathing in the cool air. A reporter shouted, "Director Roberts, do you have a statement?" She stopped, looked straight at the cameras, and said in a steady voice, "Justice doesn't need noise. It just needs truth." Then she walked away, her figure disappearing into the sunrise, calm, unshaken, and powerful. The next morning came quietly. The city moved as usual, people rushing to work, buses honking, sunlight crawling across the skyline. But inside the DEA headquarters, there was tension in the air. Every hallway buzzed with whispers. Angela Roberts, dressed in a dark navy suit, walked through the glass doors with calm steps. Her eyes were sharp, her face unreadable. Everyone she passed greeted her with a nervous, "Good morning, Director." She gave polite nods but said little. It had been only 12 hours since the incident. The video of the corrupt cop had spread like wildfire online. News channels played it over and over. DEA director framed by local officer. The world now knew what happened. Angela walked straight to her office. On her desk, a folder waited. Thick, stamped internal report. She sat down, opened it, and read quietly. Every detail was there. The planted drugs, the fake story, the dashcam footage, and the arrest. But she wasn't smiling. Not even close, she whispered to herself. One man got caught, but how many more are hiding? Just then, her phone buzzed. It was Special Agent Monroe, one of her most trusted officers. "Director, we have the 14th Precinct officers waiting downstairs," he said. "They're asking to speak with you in person." Angela took a deep breath. "Bring them to the conference room." When she entered the room, 4 officers stood waiting. Sergeant Mills, Officer Ramirez, and 2 others from the same station. Turner, of course, was already in federal custody. Mills looked nervous, his hat in his hands. "Director Roberts, we're sorry for what happened last night," he began. "We had no idea Turner was—" Angela raised a hand gently, stopping him. "I know. I don't blame the whole department for one man's actions. But I need to know everything." She walked around the room slowly, her voice calm but powerful. "Tell me, how long was he doing this?" Ramirez spoke up. "Ma'am, we don't know for sure. But people talked. Turner liked working alone. He always made arrests on quiet roads, mostly targeting black drivers. Nobody questioned him. He had a high success rate." Angela stopped walking. "Success rate?" Mills sighed. "Yes, ma'am. The department gives awards for arrests and drug recoveries. Turner, he wanted those numbers. It made him look good. Angela closed her eyes for a moment. So he built his career on lies. No one answered. The silence said enough. She opened her eyes again. I'll need all his case files from the last 5 years. Every traffic stop, every arrest, every piece of evidence. Yes, ma'am, Mills said quickly. She turned to Ramirez. And you, Officer Ramirez, and you were there that night. You saw his behavior. You questioned it. That takes courage. He looked surprised. Thank you, Director. I didn't want to see the wrong thing happen. Angela nodded. You did the right thing. Never doubt that. A knock on the door interrupted the moment. Agent Monroe stepped in, holding a tablet. Director, you need to see this. Angela took the device. The screen showed a news broadcast. Turner's face on every channel, escorted out of the station in cuffs. Reporters shouted questions at him. His eyes were red, his voice shaking. One reporter yelled, Officer Turner, why did you plant the drugs? Turner's answer was quiet but broken. Because nobody ever checked. I thought I could get away with it. Angela stared at the screen, her jaw tightening. That's the problem, she whispered. He thought no one was watching. She handed the tablet back. Release a statement. Make it clear. Corruption inside law enforcement will not be tolerated, not even once. We'll investigate every linked case. Monroe nodded. Yes, Director. Angela looked at Mills again. You'll cooperate fully with my team. Internal Affairs will visit your precinct today. Tell your officers not to fear the truth. It protects the innocent. Mills stood straighter. Understood, ma'am. As the officers left, Monroe stayed behind. He looked concerned. You all right, Angela? She sighed and looked out the window. The city below was glowing under the morning sun, but she felt heavy inside. You know what hurts most, Monroe? It's not what he did. It's that people trusted him, and he used that trust like a weapon. Monroe nodded slowly. It's a sickness, ma'am. But what you did last night, it exposed it. People needed to see that. Angela gave a faint smile. Justice needs examples, not speeches. Later that afternoon, she was called to a press conference. Cameras lined the room. Journalists whispered excitedly as she stepped up to the podium. Good afternoon, she began, her voice firm and clear. Last night, a local police officer attempted to frame a citizen by planting illegal drugs. That citizen was me, Angela Roberts, director of the DEA. The room went silent. Dozens of flashbulbs fired at once. I did not reveal my identity because I wanted to see the truth unfold. And it did, on camera, in full view of the public. What you saw was not just one man's corruption, it was a warning. A reminder that power without integrity destroys everything it touches. Reporters scribbled notes furiously. She continued. We will be reviewing every case connected to this officer. Anyone proven innocent will have their record cleared. Justice will not stop at a headline. A reporter raised her hand. Director, how did you remain so calm during the incident? Angela paused, then said quietly, Because I knew the truth. And truth always wins, even if it takes time, the crowd murmured. Cameras flashed again. Angela stepped down from the stage, ignoring the noise. Her calmness wasn't for the cameras. It came from something deeper, something unshakable. As she left the room, Monroe joined her. You handled that perfectly, Director. She nodded slowly. Let's hope people remember it. Not for the drama, but for the lesson. Outside, the sky had turned gold. The city moved on. But the story of the cop and the woman he tried to frame had already become a symbol. A story of silence, power, and the truth that refused to die. The small courtroom smelled of wood polish and paper. Reporters filled every seat, their cameras ready. The sound of whispering voices floated through the air like a soft storm. Everyone had come to see the man who once wore a police badge, now sitting in chains. Officer Mike Turner sat at the defendant's table, wearing a wrinkled orange jumpsuit. His hands trembled slightly. The pride and power he once carried were gone. His face looked pale, his eyes empty. He stared at the floor, not at the cameras, not at the people. He was no longer the man who smiled with arrogance. He was a man broken by his own choices. The door at the front opened and the sound of heels echoed across the floor. Every head turned. Director Angela Roberts walked in, calm, graceful, dressed in black. She carried no anger on her face, only quiet strength. The air in the room seemed to shift when she entered. Turner looked up and froze. His chest tightened, his breathing shallow. The same woman he had handcuffed on the side of the road now stood before him. The one he had mocked, threatened, and underestimated. Angela took a seat in the front row, beside her assistant, Agent Monroe. She didn't look at Turner right away. Instead, she focused on the judge as the hearing began. State versus Michael Turner, the clerk announced. The judge adjusted his glasses. Officer Turner, you are charged with evidence tampering, false arrest, and abuse of authority. How do you plead? Turner's lawyer stood. Not guilty, Your Honor. A low murmur moved through the courtroom. The cameras clicked. Angela raised one eyebrow slightly but said nothing. The prosecutor, a sharp woman with short hair, stood next. Your Honor, we will show clear evidence that the defendant knowingly planted narcotics in a civilian's vehicle. The entire act was recorded by the victim's dash camera and multiple witnesses. Turner's lawyer quickly replied, Your Honor, my client was under pressure, acting in good faith to protect the community. Angela finally spoke, her voice quiet but firm. Protect the community? By framing an innocent person? The entire courtroom went silent. Even the judge looked up. Angela rose from her seat. Permission to speak, Your Honor. The judge nodded. Granted. She walked forward slowly, her heels echoing against the floor. Turner's eyes followed her every step. He looked terrified, like a man watching his past catch up with him. Angela turned to face him. Officer Turner, do you remember what you said to me that night? He didn't answer. His throat felt dry. You said, she continued softly, you're going down for this. Her eyes locked on his. But look where we are now. Turner's eyes filled with tears. His lips trembled. I made a mistake. Angela nodded slowly. You made many. She looked at the judge. This isn't just about one bad officer. It's about what happens when power loses its purpose. He thought no one was watching. But justice always watches, even in the dark. The judge leaned forward, listening carefully. Angela turned back to Turner. I didn't come here for revenge. I came here because people need to see that silence is dangerous, that doing the wrong thing, even once, can destroy everything you are. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Every word carried weight. Turner broke down. Tears rolled down his face. I was tired, he said weakly. Everyone expected numbers, arrests, results. I thought if I kept winning, they'd finally respect me. Angela's tone softened slightly. Respect can't be built on fear. It can only be earned through truth. The courtroom was silent. Reporters forgot to take photos. Even the guards looked moved. The judge finally spoke. We will take a short recess. Everyone stood. Angela turned and began walking toward the door. Turner called out, his voice cracking. Director Roberts, please, I'm sorry. She stopped but didn't turn around. I know, she said softly. But sorry doesn't erase what you did. Only change can do that. She walked out of the courtroom, leaving Turner behind in tears. Outside, the courthouse steps were filled with reporters. Cameras flashed as Angela appeared. She stood still for a moment, then faced the crowd. Justice was never about power, she said calmly. It's about doing what's right, even when no one's watching. What happened to me could have happened to anyone. It's time for our system to protect the truth, not hide from it. Her voice was steady, but there was sadness in her eyes. She turned and walked away as journalists shouted questions she didn't answer. Agent Monroe caught up beside her. That was powerful, ma'am, he said quietly. Angela sighed. Powerful doesn't heal broken trust, Monroe. It just starts the process. They reached her car. She paused before getting in, looking back at the courthouse. He wasn't the first, she said. But maybe he'll be the lesson that stops the next one. Monroe nodded. You really think people will change? Angela looked at him, her expression calm. Change starts small and with fear, with regret, with truth. It grows from there. She got into the car, closed the door, and stared out the window as they drove away. The city passed by, busy, noisy, alive. But inside her, the silence was heavy. She remembered the night of the traffic stop, the flashing lights, the fake smile, the cold voice calling her suspicious. She remembered how it felt to be powerless even when she held power. And she whispered quietly to herself, never again. The car disappeared into traffic. The courthouse behind her stood tall, a symbol of both justice and its flaws. Inside, Turner sat alone in the holding cell, staring at the wall. He could still hear her voice in his mind, calm, steady, honest. And that was what broke him the most. For the first time, he truly saw what he had done, and for the first time, he collapsed, not from fear but from the truth. The world moved on. But the story did not fade. News channels kept playing the same clip. Officer plants drugs in DEA director's car. Every replay reminded the public that truth had power. Every headline reminded people that corruption had a price. Inside her office at the DEA headquarters, Director Angela Roberts stood by the window, looking at the city below. The morning light spread softly across the skyline. She held a cup of coffee, untouched and growing cold. Her reflection in the glass looked calm, but her mind was busy. The phone on her desk rang. She answered quietly. "Roberts." "Director, this is the Justice Department." The voice on the line said, "Turner's sentencing is complete. 15 years, no parole for the first 8. Angela nodded. "Understood." The voice added softly, "They mentioned your statement during the trial." It moved the entire courtroom. She gave a faint sigh. "Good. But one man's sentence doesn't fix the system." After hanging up, she sat down and opened a file on her desk. Operation Blue Mirror. It was her new project. A nationwide review of wrongful arrests and planted evidence cases. Her pen moved slowly as she wrote notes, her handwriting neat and precise. Just then, Agent Monroe walked in carrying 2 folders. "Director, we've reviewed 57 of Turner's old cases. At least 9 look suspicious. Some people might have gone to prison for nothing." Angela closed her eyes briefly. "Then they won't stay there." "Reopen every one of them," Monroe nodded. "Already started, ma'am." He hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "You know, after what happened, a lot of young officers are scared. They say they don't want to end up like Turner." Angela looked up. "Then teach them why they shouldn't be like Turner. Fear won't make them better, truth will." Monroe smiled faintly. "You always say that." "Because it's always true," she said quietly. Later that day, Angela visited the community center in the same neighborhood where Turner had stopped her weeks ago. The people there recognized her immediately. Phones came out. Cameras flashed. But she didn't come for attention, she came for peace. An older woman approached her. "Director Roberts, I saw what happened on TV. You were brave." Angela smiled gently. "Bravery is just patience mixed with truth." The woman nodded. "We've seen bad cops here for years. You showed them what real power looks like." Angela looked around at the children playing, their laughter echoing through the park. "Real power," she said softly, "is using authority to protect, not to hurt." A young boy nearby ran up to her holding a toy police badge. "Are you really a director?" he asked, eyes wide. Angela knelt down to his level and smiled. "Yes, I am." He looked curious. "Then why did that policeman hurt you?" Her eyes softened. "Because sometimes people forget what their job means. But we reminded them together." The boy smiled proudly. "You're like a superhero." Angela laughed softly. "Maybe not a superhero. Just someone who didn't stay quiet." As evening came, Angela returned to her office one last time before heading home. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and gold, the same color it was the night everything began. She stood there quietly, lost in thought. A soft knock came at the door. Monroe entered again. "You should get some rest, ma'am." Angela smiled slightly. "Soon, I just needed a moment." He handed her a small envelope. "Mail came for you, no sender name." Angela opened it carefully. Inside was a short handwritten note. It read, "Thank you for giving me a chance to change." Empty, there was no return address, no contact info. Just those words. Angela stared at it for a long time. Her eyes softened. "Even the guilty can still find truth," she murmured. Monroe looked surprised. "Do you think he means it?" Angela folded the letter gently. "I don't know. But if he's starting to see what he did, that's a beginning." She placed the letter in her drawer beside her badge. Then she stood up, collected her coat, and turned off the office lights. Outside, the city lights blinked in the distance. Angela walked down the marble steps slowly, her heels clicking softly. A reporter tried to stop her with a microphone. "Director Roberts, what's next after the Turner case?" Angela paused.
"Change," she said simply.
"Real change. Because justice isn't an event, it's a promise." She smiled politely and continued walking. The cold wind brushed against her face, but she didn't shiver. The night was quiet, and for the first time in weeks she felt peace. As she reached her car, she looked up at the sky. The stars were faint, hidden by city lights, but still there, Constant, patient, shining quietly. Angela whispered to herself, "Truth doesn't vanish. It only waits to be seen." She got into her car and drove away, the city reflecting in her windshield. Tall buildings, traffic lights, faces of people going on with life. The sound of soft jazz filled the car, just like the night it all began. But this time the road felt lighter. This time, she wasn't driving home tired or uncertain. She was driving home knowing she had turned pain into power, and silence into justice. And somewhere in a quiet prison cell, Mike Turner sat alone, staring at the small window above his bed. The faint light from the moon shone on the wall. He held a letter in his hands and a reply he had never sent. It said only 5 words: "I finally understand the truth." He placed it beside his bed and closed his eyes. For the first time in his life, he felt something real, remorse. That night, the world slept under the same sky. Some carried guilt, some carried healing, but the truth, the same truth that nearly destroyed a life, had become the force that changed many others. And Angela Roberts, the woman who stayed calm when the world turned against her, finally smiled, because justice had not just been served, it had awakened.